This man is, I envy him incredibly because he was on the set of Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. He's also Bela Lugosi's son, the star of Dracula, Bela Lugosi Jr. But wait, there's more. We have a monster historian and widely published writer, Mr. Bill Warren. Welcome, Bill. We have another film historian who's going to speak on these films, Mr. Ted Newsom. Ted. And then we have a special makeup effects artist and creature creator. This guy actually created E.T. and all the creatures in Poltergeist and The Gate and numerous other films. He's one of our true makeup heroes and a good friend of mine, Mr. Craig Reardon. Craig. Craig Reardon. And this guy is one of the finest monster artists working today. You see his material all over. He draws amazing caricatures of Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff and all the monsters. Mr. Frank Dietz. Frank. That's a pretty good panel, right? But wait, there's more. We have this guy, and he's a friend of mine for about 15 years. He's also created the amazing special effects and creatures in movies like The Terminator, Avatar, and Terminator 2, Jurassic Park dinosaurs. This guy's amazing, Mr. Shay Mayhem. And if that wasn't good enough, we have an actor to add to this. And this actor has been in, you know him from The Late Shift. He played Jay Leno. He's been in Matlock. He was on Lost. He was in a movie called The Fugitive with Harrison Ford. He was in River's Edge, an excellent movie, Mr. Dan Roebuck. That's quite a panel, isn't it? Okay, so, yes, give them a hand. They came all the way out to Pomona for this special anniversary. Thank you guys, and thank you all for coming out. Don't forget to pick up a program on your way out if you didn't get one coming in, because it has even more information. But look at these guys. They're all experts on these films. So we are now going to microphone them all, please. Let's give them all a mic. And we're first going to talk a bit about Dracula, and then we'll talk about Frankenstein, which we're going to see as soon as we're done with this panel. First of all, everyone's going to get mic'd. Dracula, as you just saw, was a classic film when it just came out in February 14th, 1931. At the time, it was a smash hit. Everyone was shocked, amazed, and it was one of the early sound monster films, right before the Dracula films were silent. So let's first start with Bela Jr. and talk about what impact did this film have on your dad's life and career? Close. Hang on one second. Backstage. We on? Hold it nice and close.
To answer your question.
There we go.
Yes. Well, that would be known as a game changer. Dad's variety of parts that he had before 1931 was far different if you compare it to the parts he had after that movie. And the whole difference was he did such an iconic job and became the Dracula that everyone measures every other actor tries to play that role. So I would say it was a big event in his life. Probably no one realized it at the time. Looking back historically, that's a fact.
Yeah, at the time it was a big successful film, but who knew 80 years later, if you asked a little kid to imitate Dracula, they imitate Bela Lugosi from Dracula. That makes it really stand the test of time. Bill, what are your feelings on mics. Not everyone's live. Okay, we'll work on that. Just so you know, it's better to be backstage than on stage when things aren't working correctly. How about now? I think you're on.
Hello.
Yep, we're on. Okay, so what in your estimation is the significance of Dracula historically in films?
Well, like you said, it was the first supernatural horror movie.
1, 2, 3, 4. Can you hear me on this?
Hello. On this one? Now I have 3 mics. One of them must be good. Anyway, yes, this will be fine. This will be yours. You took mine. It was the first supernatural horror movie of any sort. Until that is Descent. Until that point, supernatural horror films had usually featured the devil or ghosts and very little else. Even London After Midnight, which was made in the silent era, which was prompted by the stage success of Dracula, had vampires in it, but they were fake vampires. They were guys pretending to be vampires. Lon Chaney, in fact. But Dracula was something new. Universal did not know how to advertise it. In fact, the ad said something like, "The strangest love man has ever known." And it was released on Valentine's Day. They didn't really know what to do with it. And then it became a hit. And suddenly, everything else came along. Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, King Kong, The Invisible Man. It started the whole horror movie genre, really. And yet, there's never been a more iconic Dracula than Bela Lugosi. Never. When people do impressions of Dracula now, they still refer on the Transylvanian or actually Hungarian accent. Even with Christopher Lee, very successful in the role, even with Francis Coppola making a very good version of Dracula, it's still Lugosi, only Lugosi. That's how much of an impact it has had. And look, here we are, 80 years after the movie was released, in the theater in Pomona, almost every seat taken to see this movie. You try to find any other movie from 1931 except maybe Frankenstein that can fill a theater like this, you won't find one.
As a follow-up to that, Ted, where do you see the character of Dracula in this movie? Where does that stand with other great screen characters in cinema?
Do you mean iconic portrayals? In its way, probably nose to nose with Red Butler and Johnny Ringo in Stagecoach and the Thin Man and so on. In its own way, it became really, in a very short period of time, so recognizable. Dracula was appearing in Mickey Mouse cartoons, and this is within 2 or 3 years of this being out. That's how much of an impact it had. And understand that Bela Lugosi, weirdly enough, only played Dracula twice in his entire life on screen. Thousands of times on stage, but only twice in films. This one, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. He did 3 or 4 other films that are, pretty similar Dracula-ish. But still, the two are intertwined. Scott, I got somewhere a story that I want to say, but I want Bela to set it up, because